Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, today I think we're talking about a topic that we really should have done already.
Yeah, maybe the first episode.
Like the first episode. What is mechanical engineering? And it sounds like a boring topic at the start, but there's a lot of information to unpack.
Yeah. So obviously I knew what it was, but whenever I actually, but when I did the research, I became even more proud.
Yeah?
I feel like. And I'm not saying that out of my ego, but mechanical engineers do pretty much everything.
Yeah, we're the best.
Yeah, just saying. Okay.
Gosh, all right.
So, mechanical engineering is the discipline that applies engineering physics, engineering mathematics, and material science principles to design, analyze, manufacture, and maintain mechanical systems, directly ripped from Wikipedia.
Well done. They did a good job, though, because those are all the buzzwords.
Yeah.
We do marketing, so we know buzzwords, and those things pretty much nailed our target audience. So if you use those words to describe yourselves, see our ads coming to you soon.
Well, the other thing, too, that I think that description does, and I think it does it well, is when you think of mechanical engineering, people think, oh, you're making only like structural steel pieces that you're welding together and you're bolting together. But mechanical engineers, they work in the automotive field. They work in agricultural. They work everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And I think we're going to get to some different fields of study and different classes and stuff like that they take. But it's really everywhere.
Yeah. So it's one of the oldest and broadest fields of engineering. And I thought it was interesting that it primarily emerged in the 18th century, along with the Industrial Revolution.
1880, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers was formed.
Really? ASME.
ASME,
All
1880.
Right. And it's special thanks to the steam engine, though. That was like the big project, I guess, that really started to drive technology as well as the need for these specialized engineers to work on this sort of stuff.
You know who the person was that did that?
No. Who?
Oh, yeah, you know who it is.
But they also say that it can be traced back thousands of years before, depending on how general and broad you want to be.
Yeah, so James Watt, I'm jumping ahead. So James Watt is considered, by most, I'll say, there's a debate that it's Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, there's always a debate.
But they're saying that James Watt was the father of mechanical engineering with his Watt steam engine in 1781, which was fundamental to the changes that brought about the Industrial Revolution.
I think with Da Vinci, though, wasn't that another one of those, kind of like we found every invention was like, in theory, this would work, but he didn't actually get a steam engine. Yeah.
I don't think his actually worked all that often. Yeah. Just saying.
Kind of like the stuff I do. Yeah. All right, so now that we know what mechanical engineering is, I thought we should spend some time talking about what it's going to take to get that degree, because that didn't scar me for life. What do you think?
Okay, shoot.
All right, so in the U.S., what is it? Like accredited schools, ABET, are required that their students can, quote, work professionally in both thermal and mechanical systems areas. So apparently that's the rule to become an accredited school.
Okay.
Your coursework is going to make that happen. And so generally speaking, the coursework is similar across the board in these schools, but it's not going to be exactly the same. So fundamentally, the courses are going to be a lot of mathematics, like calculus,
all the maths,
integrals, linear algebra, differential equations, which was probably, in my opinion, the worst course that I took in college, which was just terrible. I don't know if it had to do with the teacher or me being stupid or what, but it was difficult. There's also a lot of physics. I took, not counting labs, 3 semesters of physics. So like statics and dynamics and electronics or electric and magnetism courses, all sorts of terrible things there. And then engineering mechanics, which is different than mechanical engineering.
It is.
So this is like statics and dynamics and free body diagrams. Do you think you could draw a free body diagram right now?
If I had force effect, I could.
Oh, that's not even a product anymore.
No, it's not, unfortunately. So I probably could do a free body diagram if I had to.
I think I would be able to get the weights right, like the distributed load or the point force and things like that. But like the fixed, like the boundary conditions, I might get wrong.
See, I would just ask Alexa.
Do you think she could do that?
You'd be amazed. I asked her how many Super Bowls the Steelers had won and when the last one was. And
Was that just testing her because you didn't know?
no, my wife needed it for a lecture she was doing. So
No, look at her. Very good. All right, so more classes. Strength of materials and material property courses. So that was one of the 3 big things you mentioned in the definition. So you would think that would be a stronger part of this. I only took 1 materials class, and it was kind of a joke. Now, the strength of materials like aluminum and steel and all of those things got factored into other courses, but there was only 1 completely focused on material properties.
And you would think that would be super important because, like, one of the biggest things you do as a mechanical engineer,
from the mechanical side,
and really any realm or specialization, is you're trying out different grades of metal, different variations on aluminum. I mean, everything has a different tensile strength and they're all different, just with a slight difference. So it is kind of interesting that you don't do more of that as like the general, like, basic schoolwork that you need to do.
And if I remember correctly, the one that I took had a lot more to do with like polymers and like plastics and crystallization and different, not so much like aluminum and steel.
Okay.
But I don't know. I didn't really like that class. To be fair, I didn't really like many of my engineering classes, which makes me wonder, like, how do people choose to become engineers? So I chose because my dad and school were basically like, you're good at math, therefore you're an engineer.
You had the guidance counselor that was like, yeah, you're going to engineering.
Right, basically. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing.
So
then.
mine was, I was basically a horrible high school student. Like, everything I did terribly bad in. And then when I went to high school, there was a drafting class, and I was like on AutoCAD 12, and basically it was the only class for 4 years that I got A's in.
They were like, this is your only
It
hope.
was like, this is literally the only thing you can do, son. You need to do this.
Yeah.
So that's really what guided me towards it.
I love it. So thermodynamics is another one. Oh, I had a great thermo class. So at Penn State, the first level, like, they mix a lot of engineers together. And I had like aerospace engineers and mechanicals and like all these people in thermo. It was terrible. But that, thermo 2, heat transfer. Some schools have specific HVAC style courses. These classes can also cover combustion, internal combustion engines, so on and so forth.
And we can't throw out all of the. These aren't necessarily mechanical engineering classes, but these are those ancillary things that you use as a mechanical engineer. So you're going to have drafting, CAD, manufacturing classes, CNC, if you happen to be at a school that does a lot of hands-on type of work. So, which I like. I like the idea of actually taking an engineering course and then taking like another course or a lab where you actually make things.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the rankings of schools now as well, is how much hands-on do you get? How much of that diversified learning do you get versus just the textbook kind of things? Yeah. More textbook, fluid mechanics, fluid flow, fluid statics and dynamics, all that fun with Reynolds number and PV equals nRT and turbulent versus laminar flow and cavitation.
I thought you were going to say turbine flow.
Turbine flow. No, gosh. Make one mistake 100 times and you never live it down. Machine design. So I had 2 classes, machine design and design of machinery, which you think are the same, but they're not.
They are not.
And so let me take a quick break and tell the story of Dr. Eric Marsh.
Good old Dr. Marsh.
Shout out to Dr. Marsh, who I think is still at Penn State, if any of you are listening. When I had him, I think he was still a new teacher in my second, I think it was design of machinery class. First off, he had us design, he got us all RC cars, and he had us design them in SolidWorks, which is the only reason I ever got my first job. So thanks, Dr. Marsh.
Perfect.
And then we were supposed to like race them and like use them throughout the year. And at the end of the year, we were going to have a big race.
And like you did things to them to make them faster
like, yeah,
than
so
other
we'd go to the
people's?
hobby shop and we'd get like aluminum rods so that they wouldn't break and different things.
Okay.
But we'd take them apart so that we could then model the parts.
Gotcha.
And then we did the other class work along with it. And so at the end of the year, we raced, and there were like him and maybe 2 or 3 of us that actually had any control of the cars because we were the only ones who played with it, obviously. And he was so beaten down by that. So move on 2 years later, I have him in a 400 level course.
Okay.
And he's just this grumpy, angry professor.
Really?
Like, he just was beaten down. And it took like 2 years. And This is my senior year. It was my only engineering course of the semester because I'd taken all of them. It was last semester I was there. And for 3 days of the class, we watched the movie Office Space. And right before he started it, he basically gave us this angry speech of, this movie is really important because this is what all of you are going to be doing for the rest of your life. Kind of like just beaten down. And then we watched Office Space. Well, it was great.
So here's the thing about that. Imagine the pressure, stress, and anxiety that you felt as a mechanical engineering student, and all mechanical engineering students. Now take all that pressure, stress. You see all those memes all over the place about engineering degrees and the pressure and testing. Take all of that and put 300 students in front of you, and you have to manage that. Well, depending on the school. I couldn't imagine the anxiety and stress that you have as an educator in engineering, because you got to be on like
and
me,
all these kids that don't care because they're out drinking.
I don't think I could do any of the things, like all those calculations. I couldn't do those off the top of my head, but as a teacher and as a professor, you have to like keep up on that and be able to do that like on the spot. So I just think there's a ton of stress there.
Yeah.
So cut the guy
I agree. I'm sorry. Manufacturing engineering. I'll wrap up these courses real quick. We only had one of these, and this was a lot. It was an industrial engineering course actually, and that was a lot about like welding and molding and casting and things like that. So that was a great course, and we need more of it. Vibrations was terrible. You usually, like you said, have some sort of drafting or CAD class. You'll take some random EE class as well. So electrical engineering, I took one. You'll get chemistries or biology classes. And then, of course, you have all of those silly philosophy and psychology and landscape architecture courses to make you a well-rounded person. And then at Penn State, at least you had to pick some handful of 400 level course electives because, you really want to elect to do that. And I picked finite element analysis, acoustics, advanced linear algebra, and I can't really remember the other one.
You were quite possibly the smartest person I actually know.
I liked the advanced linear algebra because I was the only ME in the course, and the rest were industrial engineers because they were required to take it.
Oh, it's probably really bad.
And they were all like, this is the worst class. Why would you pick this? And I was like, it's so easy. But okay. And then we all had a senior design project.
What was yours?
Ours was designing a stronger frame for a car, like an SUV. I think it was like the A-frame, like on the... along the windshield.
The pillar, yep.
Yeah, and we got this cool material from U.S. Steel that they donated us, the sheet metal, and had some guy bend it in this form that we found in FEA that was really strong, and it was like way stronger than anything that they were working with now, and the manufacturing process wasn't so much, but it was more than what they do, and the material was more expensive, so there's no chance they'd ever do it. Who cares if it saves lives?
That's all right.
But it was cool. So anyways... those are the classes that you're going to suffer through if you go into mechanical engineering.
Yeah, and the thing about mechanical engineering is, and I don't know how you felt about this. We talked about this when we did our broadcast from MIT. But do you think that how you do in individual classes really has any effect on you finally getting a good job at a place you want to work?
I'm living proof that is not the case.
Well, I'm not saying in your own personal, but like in general, do you think that like you have to be good in each one of those? Because like I think leading up to that, like in high school, you need to make sure you're good in math and science before you go in, because it gets way harder when you get to the college level. So you think you need all of those pretty well? Like you can't just be bad at something.
I say yes, but I'm saying that because if you want to get hired at like really high-end companies,
we'll talk about
maybe
those
like
a
Boeing or something, then yes, you need that 3940. Not every employer, though, is looking for that. Some people are looking for the Neil deGrasse Tysons that can talk like a human as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But let's take a break. That was a lot of classwork, a lot of homework for you guys.
A lot of homework.
A break for a word from our sponsor.
So I'm assuming that it is ASME?
It should be, or at least Penn State for all the shout-outs I just gave them. I broke down their whole curriculum for you.
Basically.
But we do have a shout-out for Andrew P., who is one of our longtime listeners.
Good old Andy P.
Big fan of ours. He wrote in to let Luke know that he is a firm believer in the LED light bulbs. He says that he switched his entire house, and the electric bill went from $300 a month to $180 a month because of the light bulb switch. So there's that. Okay. Also, I only know one reason that your electric bill is going to be that high, but we're not going to get into that. This is a family program.
So, okay, so I get just the general thing that, oh, you're going to save money. But in the example I gave on that episode, it was the fact that I buy these more expensive light bulbs and then they don't last.
He says his have lasted like 7 years as well, and he gets high-end brands.
Maybe, yeah.
I think they were GEs.
Yeah, I got mine at Busy Beaver, so maybe that was a problem.
That might have been the problem. They were actually just the regular incandescents with like a funny twist on them. So that was nice of Andrew to write in again.
Thank you, Andy P.
Also, I wanted to remind everyone, if you subscribe to us and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com, we will send you some amazing stickers.
The sweetest things you've ever seen.
Also, tell us some episodes you want us to record. That would be great too. And even more importantly,
reviews.
That's right, Luke.
Stars.
Write us reviews. Give us all the stars. That way we can become famous and rich.
Yeah, just imagine, folks, if we were beamed into your headphones like more than one day a week.
I just thought about that because this last week we've been setting records with how much people are listening. We could be making cash money.
I just feel like if our listeners want to hear us more, they just need to step up and make us popular, and we can get paid to do this for reals.
It's your fault, is what
it is. It's our listeners' fault
that
we're not rich and famous.
Thanks
well, we're
lot,
famous,
listener.
maybe not rich, but let's move on.
Moving on. What do you want to talk about next?
So I feel like this is what everybody's thinking about is, okay, so what do I make, right? I'm a mechanical engineer.
That was a good lead-in.
It is. It's like, it's all about the monies. I hate to say it. And on a good note, it's pretty good. So, and I'm not like bragging. I'm sorry. I'm using some statistics. So right off the bat, the national average salary, so this is average salary, is $84,496. That is,
it's like down to the penny.
That is an impressive national average salary. So this is U.S. only. I didn't do global. Interestingly, though, the best state, and this makes me think I might want to move to Alaska, is Alaska. The average salary in Alaska is $138,000.
I feel like I could see you living in Alaska too, like way more than me.
Yeah, I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
Although I would more than likely
have
to leave my wife because she thinks Pittsburgh is too cold.
Yeah.
So
you might have
I don't think that would happen.
Can I give you a little more info on the cash monies?
Shoot.
In 2018, these are the statistics. And if you go back to our MIT episode about colleges, and they're a little bit different now, but, generally speaking. And this is for mechanical engineering. For ME1, that's 0 to 2 years experience. Expect 62 to 74, which that feels high, at least 15 years ago.
So this is basically coming out of school.
Coming out of school.
What is it again? What's the low end?
62. It's way more than I got.
Easy.
Should I not say those things? Okay,
No.
ME2, 76, which makes sense, to 92.
These are folks with up to 4 years,
right? Up to 4, yep. And ME3, so 4 to 7 years. You're looking at like 91 to 111,
Cha-ching!
Which seems really nice. ME4 is 7 to 10 years, is about 106 to 127. I do think it's interesting that the bands begin to shrink more and more. And then an ME5, which is 10 plus, looks to be about 123 to 147, which is pretty solid.
That's pretty respectable.
For people who are thinking like, oh, so that's the most I'll ever make, a lot of the time you'll find at your place of employment, you won't necessarily be a mechanical engineer 5. Mm-hmm. By that time, maybe you'll have transferred into project management or product management or marketing or something else.
Pay scale
and
totally
then it's
changes.
Different, right?
Yeah. The other thing too is these are averages,
right?
And depending on companies, I did this quick search just this morning, and there are in Pittsburgh. There are 62 jobs that are over 150,000 for mechanical engineering.
Do you actually have to know how to be a mechanical engineer?
I hope not, because I applied for all of them.
That a boy.
Okay, so a couple other interesting things in why all of you kids out there that are thinking about liberal arts. I'm sorry if you're liberal arts. Don't do it. So the liberal arts.
No, that's not fair. Some people want a job that they love and think that will get them there.
No, don't do a job that's going to pay you cash money.
That's going to be our new hashtag.
Yeah, sorry. So liberal arts average salary, starting salary. So again, we were doing mechanical engineering average. The average starting salary in 2018 is $33,000.
Wah, wah, wah.
It's literally half of what you make as coming out as an ME with 1 year or in that first year. The other thing too is the employment rate. So 87% of graduating mechanical engineers within the first 3 years are employed.
Within the first 3 years?
So in the first 3 years. So that means that means like 15.
You're telling me some people are waiting 3 years to get a job?
Well, it's the employment rate, but
okay.
Or they might go do something else because they don't get a job right away, kind of thing. For the average liberal arts employment rate at 3 years is like in the 67%. So I mean, so not only do they have the exact same loans because it's expensive as all get out, they don't get paid and they don't have jobs. So get out of
Dodge.
Liberal arts, kids. Trust me, don't do it. So
listen to Uncle Luke.
9 of the top 10 paying entry-level jobs have engineering in the title. They're not all mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering was like number 9 or number 10.
We're the worst of the
They're all like electrical, computer.
Yeah.
So get into engineering.
Absolutely.
The number 4 best college major in 2017-18 in a Kiplinger study was mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
And the number of annual job postings is... Wow, I can't even say it. It's 241,000.
Wow, that's a lot of jobs.
That's crazy. And the projected 10-year job growth is 10%.
Wow.
Roughly.
That's pretty healthy.
Yeah, that's really
Get into
healthy.
mechanical engineering, kids.
Or just engineering in general. Get out of the liberal arts. Sorry.
Yeah. A couple other things I wanted to cover before we take another break. First, the top 5 ME schools, similar to our list in the other episode we did. MIT number 1, Stanford 2, Georgia Tech, Michigan, and Berkeley. Michigan has a great
coming in at number
engineering.
47, Penn State.
I bet they're top 20.
Yeah, they probably are.
And then one thing that I get asked all the time, that's not true, but sometimes, what about your PE, your professional engineering stamp?
Yeah, so these are cats that have been certified by local, state, and public organizations.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Like you
It's
have
a
to
money-making
pass.
scheme.
It is. You have to pass a comprehensive exam, the FE, the Fundamentals of Engineering
And you got to
exam.
do continuing education credits to keep it.
You do. You work a minimum of 4 years as an engineer in training, and then you pass the principles and practice or practicing engineering exam to get your PE.
Did you ever consider doing it?
I never considered doing
It
it.
wasn't even on your
I
radar.
actually took a job at one place and I asked them if that would be something they would like, and they looked at me and said, "You're a mechanical engineer. Why would you do that?" And so it actually turns out that some people frown on that because there's a chance that they would want to then have to carry insurance on you.
Yeah,
But
'cause
people...
the professional engineer is the guy that like stamps a thing and says
Stamps
this
on a
is
project,
safe.
right.
I've approved that this is safe and gonna work.
Civil
and
engineers typically have to have a PE
Yep.
and then can stamp off on
structural
things.
too.
Structural as well.
And a lot of
so
times,
your bridges.
A lot of times you're a mechanical engineer and you do structural work, and you do it for a professional engineer that specializes in structural. And you do all the work, he approves it, stamps it.
So in the UK, current graduates require a BEng plus an appropriate master's degree and an integrated MEng degree, a minimum 4 years, and then they can become a chartered mechanical engineer, which is, I guess, their equivalent.
Okay.
So that seems crazy. In most developed countries, they have something like this, but a lot of countries don't have it, and they just kind of have an honor system.
Okay. Hey, we got to take a break for my rant, and I'm handing this rant over to you, James, because we had a fun conversation this morning that I feel like we need to share with our listeners.
I just realized how much this ties into this episode as well. And my rant today is Facebook, but not really Facebook. It's all of you people on Facebook. It just makes me so mad because today my whole Facebook feed is filled up with all of your stupid kids going to school. It's my baby's first day of school. It's my baby's first day of senior year. Can you believe just 10 years ago this kid was going to school for the first time?
That's what
We're
happens.
going to middle school. Oh, it's their first day of 10th grade. Who cares if it's your kid's first day of 10th grade?
How are you angry?
It's just so stupid. Like, I get it. But then, you're embarrassing your kids on there. They don't want you tagging them in that stuff if they even use Facebook anymore.
So, funny story. So, my daughter had her first day of school this past Monday, and I was like, we got to do the picture on the front step with the dog. And she's like, Dad, this is 6th grade. And I was like, we're doing this picture whether you like it or not. So I take the picture. It's a nice picture. And she's like, if you put that on Facebook, I'm not talking to you for a week. So I did not put it on Facebook because she would not talk to me for a week.
This is me sticking up for your kids. And clearly I don't have any.
Dumb.
Well, the kids aren't dumb. It's the parents who love their children that are dumb.
So angry.
Anyways, let's move on.
Let's move on. So I have some pretty cool info. So this is the top places to work if you're a mechanical engineer.
I disagree with the list already, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is in no particular order. These are what I call like the famous companies. Like these are ones that are probably going to pay pretty well. Mm-hmm. These are ones that if you go and work for them, it's going to carry a lot of credit for you to go to like that next one. So if you like intern here and get on for a couple years, you can kind of like write your own ticket.
Okay.
So I'm just going to run down the list. So NASA, Google, Boeing, Apple, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, GE Aviation, Department of Energy, Ford, and an interesting one was Walt Disney. There's a whole ton of engineering that happened in Disney.
Imagineers, man.
Yeah, and I think probably the most important on the list is Unprofessional Engineering's podcast.
Oh, I would have to agree with that. That's probably top of the list.
It's definitely top of the list.
At least as an intern, unpaid.
Yeah. So we need an intern.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, how have we not called for interns on here before? That's
brilliant, right? Just imagine how good our socials would be.
I could just make our intern do my research for me.
We'd actually have an Instagram account. That would be cool.
Goodness. So if you want to be an intern and you live in the Pittsburgh area and you don't want paid but want to have fun and hang out, send us an email.
Yeah. I don't think Disney's a great place to work for, from what I've read.
I'm not saying they're
Ford's
good
okay.
for the employees themselves.
Department of Energy, I feel like, is a place you go to retire.
But I think so. Like, let's say you graduate from Penn State, you get a job at Boeing, and you have, a few years in. I feel like even if you were a bad employee at Boeing, you could kind of like go anywhere you want. Like, I worked for Boeing for a couple years.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend who worked for Boeing as an aerospace engineer.
So he could probably work anywhere he wants.
He made a lot of money, burnt out, and kind of had a breakdown and quit.
Okay.
But he's still not working. He went back for more schooling.
This isn't Turkey Sub, is it?
No, that's Sausage Sub.
Sausage Sub.
No, but he's made so much money, though, that he's like, I'm going back to school, and it's not a problem.
Okay.
Like 3 years later.
So would you work for any of these companies?
I'd work for NASA for sure, Google, Boeing, Apple, Lockheed. No, probably not Lockheed. Microsoft, not GE, DOE when I was...
You did some DOE work, didn't you?
I did, yeah. If I was looking to retire, Ford I'd work for, and Disney if I had enough money.
Okay.
Yeah. So any of you guys looking, put it out there. And Amazon, let me know if you're coming to Pittsburgh.
Give us a shout.
So a couple other things, subdisciplines of mechanical engineering. How about that?
Yes.
You okay with that?
Yes.
Mechanics. So, it's the study of forces.
Like the guy that fixes my car mechanics?
Yeah, no. See, when I was getting into engineering, that's kind of what I thought I was going to do, like fix engines.
Okay.
Turns out I'm glad I'm not doing that. Study of forces and the effects on matter. So acceleration, deceleration, deformation, elastic and plastic deformation, things like that.
Okay.
Mechatronics, combination of mechanics and electronics. So there's a lot of mechanical engineers, electricals, and software engineering that goes into that.
So these are cats that would make like robotic automation cells for packaging up ice cream and all the things.
Of course, ice cream. Yeah.
What else do they make?
Ice cream robots.
Robots.
Robotics as well. Trying to automate processes.
If I was ever going to do another, other than doing this amazing podcast with you, if I was going to choose to do something else, robotics is so interesting to me, especially with all this AI stuff that's happening.
I think they're too smart for me.
Yeah, they're way too smart. But if you think about the future of what's happening with automation and AI, I feel like robotics is a pretty sweet field to get into. And I saw a robot do a backflip the other day.
Yeah, it's amazing what they're doing. Who is it? Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, it's like Terminator T1000 level stuff.
Yeah, that is crazy. Structural analysis. I think this is the closest thing to what most people think of mechanical engineering as, and that's examining why an object is falling or failing, how to fix it. Like a part broke, how do I make it stronger? Or how do I reduce the weight, fatigue between parts, things like that. And then, of course, thermodynamics, which makes me shudder because thermo and fluid flow was, we'll call my weak spot. Like if everything in engineering was my weak spot, this was like the worst of them.
So short story about a little bit of my background. So I worked for a CFD company
You did.
for a couple of years, and we did these engineering projects, and my I have issues with colors, right? So I don't see colors accurately. I have some levels of different color blindness, and they didn't really figure that out. And if you've ever looked at a CFD fluid flow analysis, it's a lot of blues and greens and yellows, and I have issues with blues and greens and yellows. And we kind of figured this out like way too late in a project one time.
That's
and
scary.
I was in the middle of presenting, and I was pointing at like this bright yellow spot, and I was like, look at all this green here. And the customer was like totally questioned the project I did for them. So I quickly moved out of the CFD engineering and analysis realm and moved over to marketing.
That was smart.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a big problem for electricals as well because of the resistors, the colored resistors. I think there's ways around it, but it's still a big problem.
Yeah.
If you do love staying in school, so remember my friend Professor Marsh I told you about?
Yes.
Maybe you would want to do research. And typically now you're going to be doing research in a field like robotics, like you said, microelectromechanical systems, MEMS, composites, which are huge now,
Yeah.
mechatronics, nanotechnology, or biomechanics. I actually almost got into biomechanical engineering at Penn State, but didn't. It was a new field offered there.
We never would have met.
And no, we wouldn't have. And I also almost got into nuclear, but they said, here's the thing. We don't make many of those. And they just hire mechanicals afterwards.
Yeah.
So just get a job there if you're interested.
And I think they rely a lot on military folks.
Yeah.
My brother was a Navy
Yep.
nuke.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And a lot of those folks end up in those roles anyways. So I have some fun celebrities with engineering degrees.
Yeah, let's end it on that.
These aren't, now, I can't say these are all mechanical. Some
they're
of them,
engineers.
But they're engineers. I love the first one.
I saw your first one, and I knew what he was.
Mr. Bean is an electrical engineer, so
Which is awesome.
The quirky, European Mr. Bean guy that does all
Talk
those
about just
crazy
straight
faces.
up not doing engineering.
He's
huh?
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike Bloomberg,
Wow.
electrical engineer. Ashton Kutcher, the guy that's married to Mila Kunis,
Oh, yeah.
Ashton from that 70s show,
yeah.
biomedical engineer or biomechanical engineer.
That's what happens when you're a biomedical engineer. Mila
Yeah.
Kunis just shows up at your doorstep. Holy cow.
Bill Nye, we talked
Yeah,
about him
we know
before.
Bill
He was
Nye.
an
Check
ME.
out that episode.
This one is interesting.
I don't believe this.
Cindy Crawford is a chemical engineer.
No, she's not.
I could see her
Are
as a
you
chemical
serious?
engineer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Neil Armstrong was an aeronautical engineer. Terry Hatcher, the girl from
I know Terry Hatcher.
from Seinfeld
Yeah.
episode, and
Oh, yeah.
from the
We know that
Superman and Lois and Clark.
Yeah,
she's
Lois and
an
Clark.
ME.
Yep, that's
which
crazy.
Is, Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph is so smart. He has a bunch of degrees. I think he has a physics
The
degree,
one I
too.
know of is chemical. Tom Landry, the coach of the Cowboys,
Really?
was an ME. And good old President
President
Jimmy Carter
Peanut.
was a nuke.
Wow.
He was a nukie.
That is a great list.
Yeah.
Well done.
There was a really big list of, like, they called them famous, but they were people that I didn't know. So
They were famous like
so-
us.
So then I Googled celebrity engineers, and then this was the list that came
That's
up.
amazing. I think that was a great way to end
do
this,
too.
Luke.
Thank
you for doing that.
No problem.
I think all of you are probably ready to go become mechanical engineers. Any of you who just got your liberal arts degree,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're looking to go back now.
Feel sorry
Hey,
for you.
another shout out to our friend Rachel who decided to go back for engineering instead of being an author.
Thank
so
goodness.
good for you.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Good luck with those ME degrees, everyone. And until next time.
See ya.